Today is Wednesday, August 12th, and we are here at the elevaTOURs Elevator Museum, where it's time for yet another tour of the museum in its current state. And of course, to get to the museum, we have to ride the Salem elevator. So let's go. And here we are at the museum. And you can see here, if you've been following the museum for a while, we've made a huge significant change in here. We have completely changed around how things look. And we did that for, well, kind of one reason. And why is that?
Two reasons, actually. The first reason, we got a huge donation. Jared Chambers donated probably well over 30 pieces, which you will see displayed throughout the museum. And also, we've kind of future-proofed as well. And not only Jared, we had some other local people in Pittsburgh, Clay and Adam, and Chris also donated some items as well.
And that was just from the recent donation. Since the last tour, we've also received more stuff from Mike in Texas and a few other donors as well. But the future proofing is this. We have two shelves back to back in the middle. And when we want to expand, we simply just pull this table just further and further close to the front, kind of creating these two aisles. Eventually we're going to put these cranks and other things up there, but for now, this is what we have, and it's a good system. In addition, we've also started hanging some of the lanterns and PIs from the ceiling, so you can see them a bit better and they don't take up as much space. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started with the tour. So over here on the right, we have the ThyssenKrupp panel from the Habitat store. And then down here we have Otis Touch COP, along with a few extra things kind of hiding in the back. Down here on the floor, we've got this very awesome Houghton position indicator from Chris. This was actually one of the big donations. Over here we have a Otis little lantern there. Probably will be hung as well. Got two touch buttons down there. They do have guts, but the guts are kind of put away. On this bottom shelf here, we've got this very interesting Schindler button. Never seen these buttons actually in person besides here. These are quite interesting. We've got a D button here. This one I wired up recently. Car lights up like that. We've got this really neat Murphy button. These are Earhart fixtures. We've got a Dover Hunter Hayes panel with the armor fixtures. And a Schlieren button. These buttons are very satisfying. Next shelf up, we've got these two indicators. What are these from?
Price Doyle Fine Arts Building. They're one of the first pieces I ever got back in 1997.
You can see here the difference, 2 and 2U. We've got a dinner bell. Let's go and listen to it.
Justin. Is that Justin?
Yeah, we got a safety switch there, and we got some of the cathedral buttons here. Got this, I think, is this Payne or CJ? I think this is...
I believe it's Payne.
Lights up, we got Payne here as well. These look really nice. This one's not wired yet. And we look at this button here. This one's quite special.
That was very special. That came from Lake Barkley Lodge, and I pressed that button as a teenager.
And here we have a little car top. These have Earhart fixtures as well. Next shelf up, we've got this really cool American elevator plate. Didn't you say Tom made this?
Yes. That came from Jackson Slater, old C.J. Anderson buttons, original light switch in place.
Same, oh yeah, the original, oh wow, that is the original light switch. Here we have a really neat piece.
Those are Coulter Hammer Superior, and that right there is one of my new favorite pieces of all time. I don't know why, but I love that panel, and that was donated by none other than Jared.
Up here we have some of the Schindlers. These are some of the kind of more modern Schindlers, and these are neat. I'd love to get these to work someday, but we have various different types. Some you'd see here in the States, some you wouldn't. We do have some more Schindler stuff, but we eventually will kind of put all of them together. And of course, you can't forget the Mack, Montgomery.
Accessories or Montgomery.
Yep, Montgomery car top station right here. Up here on this shelf, this is kind of an empty one, but we do have a few things. We've got this ThyssenKrupp button here, a couple ThyssenKrupp buttons, Signifor, and then the safety ambassador button. And this is actually the older one. You can see here, there's the old logo. We got this interesting indicator, and the bulb's kind of broken, but it does have a bell.
That came from Sam. That's a Houghton.
That's a Houghton indicator.
That could be used on a passenger, freight, or dumbwaiter.
This here's a Dover indicator, and this one's kind of neat. You see there's what it looks like in the light, but it has this really neat sounding bell. That will hopefully one day be wired up to something. And we've got another indicator here. Again, these will probably get hung at some point, but they're just kind of here for the time being. Up here on the very top, we have some of the non-interactive things. We've got this indicator here, Dover, and we've got a few panels up here. So this one, I believe this is a freight. These are freight panels.
Payne.
And then
came from Norfolk Southern Building.
We've got this indicator here, this cool old Otis panel, and this really big Westinghouse panel here. And it's kind of interesting is the lights make the top light up a little bit. And up there we've got a little indicator. Again, over here on the top we've got some more indicators. There we've got an indicator on top. We've got a couple of US indicators here. Some fire alarms, Westinghouse lubricant, and just other general display items that don't really interact yet. Then moving down here to the kind of main shelf, or the original shelf. This is the original...
This is the original main display, but now we don't really have a main display anymore.
Nope. So we've got this, this is a Payne fixture. This one's kind of neat. Schlieren. Kind of ironic, as I believe this means out of service. So when you press the button, uh-oh. These are, what did it say, transporter?
Yeah.
These are kind of satisfying buttons to press, and this switches as well. Which country is this from?
Former Slovakia. Former Czechoslovakia, now I think it's Slovakia.
Here we have one of two really neat Aero heart call stations. This one I restored very well. These things were in really bad shape, but these need to be wired up and are pretty cool. Here we've got Schindler R Series, and here we have some more Schindler buttons. These are vintage black button Schindlers. These are really cool. Another Aero heart, the Alamo panel. Houghton triangle.
That came from Sam Starr.
These are pretty satisfying. Never seen these in the field before. More general, or not general, armor. Seen these on Generals in St. Louis. And this here is the Kone button that I made this custom circuit for. I made a custom printed, 3D printed base along with the lights. That project was, well, link in the card for if you want to see that project. Next shelf down, got a pit switch. Got some more transporter buttons. This one has a up, down, and this one's just kind of a single call. We got a Reading elevator button. This thing's really cool looking. It looks very industrial as well. Black button car top station. General elevator from Baltimore. I've only seen these buttons one other time in the field. This here is a really interesting button, we think from France. It's a little COP for something. Got a couple of US buttons here. This is from the one and only Elmwood. And over here we have just a square one. Here's the ABC button. Yet to ride an ABC elevator. And then up here we have the custom-made diesel-deucy elevator button that I made. Here we have a Schindler COP. These buttons are really satisfying. Seaberg call station. And another Schlieren up here. This is an armor button, isn't it? Isn't this armor?
Which one? Yes, that's armor car top.
And we got a couple Westinghouse. We got the black buttons and the triangles. Now down here we've changed things up a little bit. Formerly we used to have some of the bigger panels here, but I kind of thought that we could make use of the space better. So now we have the diesel-deucy button right here. And we have a Schindler car top. We got a Schlieren button down here. The rotary button. And here we have the black button GAL display. So O'Keefe elevator, this was from Jared recently. Here we have an R&O. Manual. The Westbrook. Southern elevator. And then we have a bunch of various call stations. So here's an intermediate terminal. We've got a Canton, F. Grote, another just kind of generic. We've got the Southern Company and a Southern elevator. And there's a few more of those lingering around. Got a few different plates. This is a Titan and this is the Southern. And then down here I've kind of made this little shelf for some of the smaller buttons. So we've got a couple R series buttons here, the little Schindler button, and all of the Innovation sales samples, which I think all but this one are actually wired up. We've got the bruiser on the side. And then of course, the diesel doocies. Up here on the top here, we have the Midwest Elevator sign. We're currently in the process of moving around the logos. The Peely sign needs to come down. We're gonna move that around. So that one's up here for now. We've got a Southern plate there, an indicator, and just a couple other indicators just kind of temporarily being stored up there. On this shelf, we have this kind of cheap button, generic Otis knockoff. This here is Nemeth or Nemeth or whatever. I wired this recently. This is actually a kind of a rare piece. Got an MT button that I gave Andrew. Kone AM series. And it lights up now. And then of course, the call station from Elmwood, and this really cool Staley button. Now this shelf I kind of made the Dover shelf, so for now. This was just kind of a little themed shelf. We've got a few of the Dover logos here, some belt buckles and other logos. Got a older impulse switch here. Got traditional, the black buttons, but they're the white buttons, but just kind of the older contacts here. And then here's the black button version. The really shiny panel. Here you have some more black buttons. These are kind of more of, oh.
Did it break?
No, this just came unglued. It just has to be glued back on. But now that this is broken, we can say the elevator is going sideways. Here we have some Dover Impulse. We all love Impulse. On the next shelf down, we have some of these interesting, I guess, Otis buttons. I'm not sure what brand they are, but they're these kind of small buttons. This one's in fairly good.
Those are Otis.
This one's in fairly good shape. This one, the buttons are kind of whatever. Got some more logos here. But then back here we've got this, I can't read the logo because you're blocking the light. We have this Renovalift. I'm guessing these are the same buttons. Got a Kone. Here's the other Arrowheart. Another ThyssenKrupp. And this weird thing. At the very bottom here we have another PI that's going to be hung up eventually. An indicator here. This here is a really awesome Otis piece. Otis buttons. And look at this big light switch. Here we've got a kind of interesting Otis button. And then over here we have some Adams.
Faculty Hall.
Yep, and then we got Innovation. And very interesting Dover with these little lights. In this corner, we've got the really big and kind of annoying ThyssenKrupp panel, but it's really cool. There's the PI. We've got our fire cabinet with all the controls in here. And then of course, lots of buttons to press. So you can press all of these. Maybe one day it'll light up. This just kind of seems like a nightmare to even think about wiring. Over here we've got the Elmwood indicator from the inside and this really big Westinghouse Selectomatic control panel with these floor buttons, which for some reason are sticking in like that, and cabinet. Here we have the panel from Church Avenue, and this here is Schindler M series, which is very interesting. This lantern will eventually be hung up there, but then below it we have this Series 1 panel, and then over here we have the Dominion panel from the 707 building, which we're going to switch this to incandescent eventually. But this is the panel that I restored to make it look a little bit nicer. And there's inside the cabinet. Now this shelf here, we've got literally one thing on it, and that's just a box temporarily. This is part of our future proofing. We've got all this space to add new parts. And while we're over here, we'll take a look at some of the lanterns across the back. And then up here on top we have an Otis lantern, which for some reason appears to be backwards. The green is at the bottom and the red's on the top, but that looks really cool. And it's even complete with the box and all the guts. Down here on the floor we have this really cool Dover Impulse button from the capital of Texas. We got two of these, and this is one of them. This is from the parking level. And now we're getting into some of the cranks. So this is the Shepherd car switch, complete with your light and fan switch, your safety switch, your door release.
Solely possible by the patrons.
Here we have the GAL car switch, and it kind of conveniently fits in this hole. And this one's a new old stock fixture. Here's the Westinghouse, the American. There's the Burwack, an Otis, and a K&H. And we can't forget this one on top. And this is kind of what we'd like to do eventually with all the cranks, is build this little base for them so we can display them on a table like this, and you can play with them. But most of them now are just sitting on the floor. And that brings us right here to the front with the large Otis Governor. We take a look on the front here, safety governor type FA, and it tells you all the different information. The car speed is 300 feet per minute, and this thing trips at 420 feet per minute. That's an interesting number. Anyway, the way it works is this thing spins, which turns these, and the force, the faster you go, the more these spread out. The first thing that happens, this electrical contact gets tripped, which will cut power to the motor. So it spins fast enough, click, now the power to the motor is cut. And theoretically, it should stop. But let's say something's going wrong, and it doesn't. It keeps going, bam, it locks down on the rope, which sets off the emergency brake, and bam, the elevator stops with a pretty hard bang. And now taking a look on the top here, we have some other items, less button related things, but this here is a selector for a 2-floor elevator, and simply this connects to your elevator and it turns, and all of these switches move, and that's how, well, the controller knows where the elevator is. Here we have a lantern that will eventually go up there. A rotary phone. How many people know how to use one of these?
I do.
Of course. You put your finger where you want, number you want to dial, turn it to here, and then you do it again. Here we've got the alarm bell, which
From Elmwood.
that's from Elmwood, and we may hook it up to a panel one day. This here is a Peely door release. So you put your key in there and open it up, and that's how you release the door. Up here we have a bunch of different logos. So a nice little display of various logos and such. On this side we got a couple phones. And we've got a ThyssenKrupp elevator thing that was custom made, and then a Westinghouse plate. And we can't forget the oiler. And over here, we've got some more small items. We've got this Dewhurst sale sample. This is the inspection station from Elmwood. And, well, let's just say I could probably build something that looks a little bit better than this. Another Adams button here, a fire alarm, and a C.J. Anderson button. Down there we have some guide rails from an old wood rail elevator and an interlock. Here we have a Dover I2 valve, and this was actually in my collection for a while, but I donated it to the elevator museum. Here we have a lantern. We got an interlock right there, another alarm bell, and a couple of these EPCO call stations. Moving over here to one of our newer shelves, we've got a, this is I think a Houghton L or H series, whatever it's called. Kind of nice, EPCO, a Westinghouse call station, and this here. Now, tell the story behind this button right here. This is a very interesting piece. You notice it's all burned and broken.
That button survived a fire.
Down here we have the Monarch panel from the Habitat store, which actually was an inspection station. We got this neat EPCO call station from Jared, and you'll see the COP this goes to in a little bit. Another GAL button. Kone, the innovation, the Delta fixtures. And we have RT over here. Just a little fun fact though, RT is actually Adam's Survivor. And a little bitty Schindler. Here we've got a little indicator, little 4-floor PI. This is a Schaefer button that's actually used by Kone. I've never seen these in person before, but this is a little PI and this is the button. Here we have a interesting GAL call station with the old style in-use lights. And then over here we have a Rosenberg C.J. Anderson car station, which does not have a light switch. Down here on the bottom we've got an R series with the analog indicator and a Westinghouse freight elevator panel. Alderson GAL, the ESCO panel, Baxter & Sons EPCO, and a C.J. Anderson call station. Here's the shiny mirror panel with the Adams buttons. C.J. Anderson ESCO panel. This is kind of just sitting here temporarily. Here we have this interesting Otis panel. It's the touch buttons were replaced with Adams, and well, we're kind of missing the top, but it's a little service cabinet. Here we have a monitor call station and an EPCO call station. Now this panel over here was a recent donation. These have very interesting EPCO buttons. And over here we have yet another PI, along with some more logos. And this very awesome painting from Kevin Roberts of a Dover indicator, which sadly this thing fell and broke, so we need to get a new frame for it. But behind that, we have some interesting COPs. We've got this ESCO car panel here, the one and only Elmwood panel. This was actually the first elevator button I ever wired up. And of course the Dover panel. Down below, we've got EPCO panel from elevaTOUR in Dallas. Schindler R series with colorful buttons. Montgomery. And more EPCO. There's a lantern on top. Here we've got this indicator, which Aaron rigged up with an Arduino and relay board, so it cycles through just like a normal elevator.
Came from Sinai Hospital.
And back there we got some lanterns, some extra ones. Here we have a 5500 Schindler button, complete with a box. Dover, Adams, EPCO, and a couple armor. Here we have the Otis display. So all of these buttons are Otis. We've got a bunch of different logos and other Otis related things. Here we have black button dumbwaiter panel, car top station, little small black button, series 1, another black button. These are like series 2 or 4 or whatever, clicky buttons, and some really old black buttons here. And of course, this series 1 panel on the side, and a series 5 right here. Next shelf down, we got black buttons here. More black buttons. This is from a dumbwaiter. So C would be call, B is basement, and then 2 is 2. Here's a freight call station. Yet another black button over here. More black button. And some Lexan. And these light up. On the very bottom, we have the indicator from Church Avenue. Some more Dover Impulse. MAD. This is from Church Avenue. And more Schindler R series here. And this panel, this is a GNS panel that Tom rigged up. And you can turn it on with the stop switch, and if you hit the buttons, the bell rings and the buzzer. Down below we have a Peely door controller, just the plate. And above it we have the COP from, that's right, the Cathedral in Pittsburgh. The very satisfying stop switch, but this panel is in very good shape. And up here we have all of our electrical stuff. There's our main switch. And then this here is live power if you need to plug anything in. Up there we have some more Otis lanterns. Westinghouse this car up. And some more third-party stuff. We have EPCO here. This is all EPCO. More EPCO. We got some Adams and monitor. Here you have code A220. This was a fun project. Montgomery A series. The ThyssenKrupp button, uh-oh, it's dead. We're putting a new battery in it. The Schindler HT, this thing was hiding away for the longest time, but here it is on display. And we have more armor. And then the little MAD display here.
That was from Joseph.
And with a hidden ThyssenKrupp beeper. We have another Westinghouse plate. Some older plates here. This is a kind of just an interesting button as well. And here we have the PTL display of all the different fixtures. Some more button buttons here. And the ESCO COP. Here we have the Payne COP. Press the buttons. Oh wait, the video's not over yet, but it will be soon. This is a neat panel. Here we have a Westinghouse black button. These buttons are awesome. And a Baxter & Sons US panel. Prototype indicator from the Hotel Roanoke. The little handicap button, and then another indicator. Up here we have some more non-interactive stuff. We've got some touch buttons, an Otis lantern, and a couple of drop key boxes. Little indicator here. Here's a CJ Anderson shelf. We've got various CJ Anderson fixtures in here. And then down here we have kind of a somewhat Montgomery shelf. We've got the old square buttons here. Couple of car top stations, 2 different types. A Montgomery big car top station and an A series COP. And then we just have a CJ Anderson button here. But it's kind of fitting because we have CJ Anderson very close together. Down here we have a GAL shelf. So we have different GAL fixtures. Like that. And down here at the bottom we have armor. So we have our big armor COPs, along with this big old Montgomery A-Series panel. General Elevator Company, and the Westinghouse lantern from Justin. Over here we have one last Otis Touch panel, the other button from the capital of Texas, and then of course we have the Dover Impulse COP over here. And then to top it all off, the little indicator from Macy's. So that is the tour of the museum. This is the current state as of August 12th, 2020.
I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please come visit, or donate, or both.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.